In this video, we're going to start making our points widget actually display the current amount of points that we have. So whenever I shoot the zombie, we want it to increment. So if we go to our graph of our HUD, what my thoughts were, we're going to bind an event we're going to create the event in C++, and we're going to bind it inside of our, what do you call it? Our widget here, just like we did with our onInteract changed, because we want whenever we shoot a zombie, we want it to be fired, that event to be fired on the client. And that will kind of make it more just very responsive instead of waiting for the server to, detect whether or not the hit was valid, then change our points, then replicate the points back down to us and stuff like that. We're going to be kind of handling it basically on the client, but the server's still going to have some form of authority over the points. So we could cheat the points all we want, but the server's still going to have authority. That makes sense. So let's begin. We go over to our C++ code, go to our Nazi zombie character. We already have a event created. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another one of these. So I'm going to just copy and paste. I'm going to give it a name of f points changed, and the value is going to be points. Or not points, sorry. What is our points? Int 32. And I'm going to give it a name of on points changed, like so, and set it up down here. So it's blueprint assignable. It's f points changed on points changed, like so. So now whenever our points change, we just do on points changed dot broadcast, and we pass in our points. So let's go to our .cpp and look at wherever we set our points. So we have increment points and decrement points. All we're going to do is simply, what I want to do is I want to create a simple function called, no, we'll leave it for now. So after the points have changed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do on points changed dot broadcast, and I'm going to pass in points, like so, on both our increment points and decrement points function. So just like that. So I want to go ahead and compile. I'm going to have to do an editor restart. Then we need to, inside of our widget, bind this event. So I want to eventually have another event that gets fired whenever another player's points, for example, gets updated from the server. So it's going to be the index. It's going to take in two parameters, the index of the player as well as the points. At least that's kind of how I have it in my head. So based off of our array of, point widgets, that's going to be corresponding to the index of the player that had their points changed. So that way, hopefully they should be easily accessible and easy to change without really having to do much at all, honestly. Again, in my head. Does it ever work that way? No. Okay, let's open it back up. Go back to our widget. And here we can go ahead and bind that event. So I want to disconnect this create widget line, move it over. I'm going to drag off of our BP Nazi zombie character. I'm going to do bind, on points changed. So bind event to on points changed. Add a custom event. Let's call this one on points changed. Like so. And now that I'm looking at this, I want to go ahead and actually make some changes. So I want to remake this event and this event to give it a different name for the parameter. So I want to change this one to new points and this one to interact message. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete both events, like so, as well as both bindings. Compile, save, and I'm going to close it. I'm going to go to our Nazi zombie header. I'll change this one to new interact message, new interact message, new points, new points. And then we have to change them inside of our .cpp. So on points changed is now new points in both our increment and decrement. And then wherever we have our line trace, right here inside of our set interactable object, what we're going to do is on interact changed, new interact message, on interact changed, new interact message, and then we compile. So this should help clean it up and just make it look a lot nicer. Then obviously we're going to have to set it up again and test and make sure that it works for the interact, and then we will go and continue with setting up our points. Alrighty, relaunch the editor. Back to our HUD, and we're going to rebind. So let's do, it was, so assign new interact message. Sorry, bind event to new interact message. I'm going to add a custom. I'm going to call it on interact message changed, and just simply link it up. Again, we'll do the exact same thing for points. So bind event to new points. Do custom event. Call this one on points changed. But on this one, I want to give it a name of on owner points changed. That makes more sense. And then from there, I'm just simply going to reconnect the create of the widget. Now, on owner points changed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get our live points array. Trying to figure out like way to get a reference. Yeah, whatever. We're just going to check if an index is valid for index 0, because that's going to be our own. In which case, we're going to get a copy of index 0. We're going to do set points connected to true and pass in points to the new points. And since it's getting a copy, let's see, it's probably going to have an issue because it's not by reference. So I'm not expecting that to work, but our basic setup is there. So I'm just going to do a triple check and make sure our interaction dealio works, which it does. And our points actually are changing. I stand corrected on that. So it is following along with the points, but we need to have one thing fire off specifically, and that's for our initial points. So if I head over to our character, Nazi zombie character, and look at our custom. All right, so we're starting out with 2,700 points by default. We need to set it in the constructor to pretty much fire for that value. So do I have a get points function in our header? I do not. So what I want to do is I want to create a function called get points. Actually, what I can do is make this, instead of edit defaults only, I can, well, I don't want to make it read only. Yeah, screw it. It'll be cleaner to have a function. So we're going to do an int32 for the return type. We're going to call it get points. And all it's going to return is simply, I'm going to do that underneath our decrement points. So int 32, get points. It's going to return points. So I want to go ahead and compile. Actually, I'm going to cancel. We need to make this blueprint callable. So function blueprint callable, like so. And now we compile. So I want to file and save all to my editor. Close it, wait for the compile to be finished. Then I will relaunch the editor and we will set this up to match the starting points that we, have. So 2700 is what our initial spawn, our initial point should be in the widget. So let's open up the engine. Alrighty. Again, go back to our HUD and go over here to where we cast to our character. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off. I'm going to do get points. I want to break this create widget connection. I'm going to link it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on owner points changed and pass in the return value for get points and then relink to our create widget. So now we should start. All right, we did not start with 2700, so that didn't work at all. And I just realized why. So I'm going to go ahead and relink our create widget and all that set up again. What I'm going to do is I kind of want to clean this up into a function, but I'll do that probably in the next video. So we're going to go about creating the widget just like we did before, except at the end, I'm going to get our Nazi zombie character, do get points. After our add, I'm going to link up get points, and then I'm going to call on owner points changed and pass in the new points. So the reason it didn't work the first time was because on owner points was already set, but our index for live points list was not set. So index 0 was invalid. So now, as you can see, we spawn with 2700. I bar the door, it goes down by 500. I shoot, goes up by 100. I get a collateral, goes up by however many zombies are here. So 2700 should be 2900. Then we should go to 3100 once I get 3, possibly, or 4. So our points are now displaying, as well as they are displaying our current, our starting points as well. So if I go back and I change it to, the default of 500, actually I'm going to do 1500. So as you can see, it starts with 1500. Alrighty, so now we have our basic setup for our points display widget, at least for ourselves. So the majority of this is what we're going to be doing is doing everything kind of as if we're doing it in single player, but we're kind of thinking of a way to how we can do it in multiplayer as well. So that way, whenever we start replicating stuff down the chain, it won't require a huge rewrite. We should be able to just, add and change little bits here and there. And what I mean by that is for when, let's say, client 2, or we're client 1, and client 2 shoots a zombie or buys a door. So they're on points where their own on owner points change is going to run on their own client. What we want to happen For all the other clients aside from, client 2, we want a custom event to run that's going to take in new points as well as the index of that client. So that would be 2. So that way we would go through the live points list array. We would find, well, we would get the second index and literally do just this. So that way, whenever the server updates the points for that client, it will update the points for everybody else because that variable for the points is going to be replicated to everybody. We're probably going to set it to skip owner for the condition, but it's going to be replicated to everybody. So whenever it changes, we're going to want an event to fire. That event's going to fire. It's going to take in an index. So pretend this is the index. We'll just punch it in to here and here and link it up all the exact same. And it should kind of take control of itself. So yeah, now that that is out of the way, I will see you in the next one where we might end up just actually cleaning this up a bit because it's getting kind of messy. It's going to get a little messier as well. So now that's out of the way, I will see you in the next one.